Good, excellent. Good morning, John.
Sorry, I was just on mute. Morning, all.
No problem. Good to see you, John. Morning. How you doing?
How are we doing?
Good. Yeah, good. Thank you. Yeah, very good.
Good.
Okay, let's make a start, and then if we may have a couple of latecomers who I'll let in when they join us. Okay, good. So first things first. It's 10, just after 10 on a Tuesday morning. There might be stuff bubbling around in your mind. Just take a moment to capture it while we think about this, returning to this principle of the beginner's mind from this Shen Buddhism principle. So lots going on for you all, I know, having had like individual conversations and seen, I kind of track you all as well on social media and stuff. So having seen all the stuff that's going on, I bumped into a few of you recently as well. So there'll be lots of stuff on your mind right now. I know you've all got lots of different things happening in your business and in your lives. So just a moment to kind of give you a chance to reset as we come into this conversation today. And a reminder to just capture anything as we're going through today's conversations with each other and as a group, just to capture any key takeaways. What we're looking at today, we'll do a quick recap. We'll give you the chance to check in with each other. And then I've got a couple of topics that might be useful today. But a reminder that we are recording this session, but everything we talk about in these workshops and on these sessions is confidential among this group. If there is anything particularly sensitive, then just give me the nod or just kind of ask me to press the pause button, which I will do. And we can take any conversation we need to off the recording, which is just kind of keeps it completely confidential in that context. We'll handle questions as we go along, and hopefully, you know, this is a great group. You will feel this creates an opportunity for you to bring real challenges and get some support for things that are happening within your roles and your businesses, and with, you know, the knowledge that this is a completely safe zone for us all. We have a couple of topics today, but effectively today's about just checking in, making sure that you've got the support for progress. And if there's anything going on in your business and you need some support from this group, then it gives us that chance to surface that today and have a conversation about it. We will take a short 5-minute break somewhere around the halfway point, just to give us an opportunity to, you know, refresh drinks, take a comfort break, that kind of thing. Okay, I won't go through the learning outcomes, but this is everything that we're working through on our program. We're together in person next month in April at Oxford at Viva. Matt's kindly hosting us, and we'll look at those final stages of our coaching program in the final session, in our final in-person session. So we'll be looking at development planning, we'll look at succession planning, we'll look at some of those areas of, you know, just refresh on goal setting, just make sure that we've got the support we need for our teams and ourselves and our own career development. So we'll start to talk about that as well. Okay. You're all, how are you getting on with the accountability part? Is that still going okay with everybody? Accountability conversations going okay? Nods, shakes.
I probably need to speak with Oliver. We haven't caught up in a little while, but for the most part, it's been going well.
Okay. Okay, good.
Same with Nicola and I. We need to schedule in a catch up as well. Long overdue.
We were due to meet at IDS and just things took up. So
it was just mad couple of days.
It's always difficult at events, and it just you can just find the time. Yeah, never find the time.
That's it.
Okay, so maybe can I ask you to schedule something with each other before the end of today's call? Is that okay? Just so you kind of got that momentum back.
Definitely.
Yeah. Chris, how about you? Are you and Abby managing to check in?
We were, but we just do need to get another one in.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can I ask you to do the same today? Is that all right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So
I'll drop you a
by the
text,
end of today.
Chris.
What's that?
I'll drop you a text after the
okay.
call and we'll get a time in.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you. Thanks, Abby. Thanks, Chris. Tim, you and Stancy managing okay?
Yeah. We'll book one in prior to the next session in Oxford. So probably in about 2 weeks. We try to split it in half normally.
Great.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you. I'll put a message into our WhatsApp group as well, just to ask, just to give you a reminder to get those conversations in. Good, because you know it's one of those things that is really easy to miss or put off, but actually when you have it, you recognise the value of it. So maintaining that momentum on it just gives you that external accountability. Okay, good, thank you. And if you can focus on, what are the actions you're continuing to take as part of the progress that you're making? How do you help each other kind of become accountable to keep continuing to make progress? And how often will you review? So when you have the next one, so today you'll schedule your next one. If I can ask you to, in that next call, also schedule the one after that, so that you continue. It's a bit like the sales process, this, isn't it? The accountability process, just what's the next step, so you book it, whether it's a customer or accountability call or coaching or with your team members. Just make sure that you've always got that next step in the diary, so that there's that accountability, that sense of movement and progress. Because if I don't progress and make that next step, then I know that someone's going to ask me where I am with it, and that just helps you to make that commitment to yourself. Okay, good. So reminder that part of our job is about that energy that we bring to the role, energy that we bring to our conversations with our teams, to our business, to our peers, because that's how we create that culture of positivity, that culture of progress, that culture of kind of almost excitement around what we're doing and the difference that we're making in our roles. As leaders, we've got that responsibility and that opportunity to share that and ignite that in our teams. This is a reminder of the challenges that we mapped out at the start of our program. I think from previous conversations we've got some really good progress on each of these. But if any of these continues to proliferate, then consider where you are with it, and if we can continue to give you the support to overcome these challenges, then that really helps. So if there's any of these that are still kind of bubbling away for you, let me know, and we'll look at how we bring those into either these conversations or our one-day workshop when we're together in April. Okay. Reminder of the toolkit. I'm sure you're continuing to review it and use it, but there's hopefully you get the chance to revisit this on a regular basis, so that you're able to kind of pull together your thoughts and your plans for your team and your business. We've worked through a lot of these through our different sessions. We'll be looking in our final session at this kind of strategic development planning documents. We'll look at succession planning, and probably revisit some of the key areas that are a priority for us, but we'll also then check in on what it is that you're finding is, the kind of predominant themes that you continually revisit. If your businesses are anything like mine, there are things that you just have to keep going back to in terms of principles, so that you remind yourself to stay on track and you remind your teams to do the same. So we'll look at that in our next session together in April as well. Morning, Stancy. Thank you for joining us. I know Chris did mention you'd be joining us and probably from the car. So I appreciate if you can't, if you're not able to join us on camera, no problem at all. Okay. So I'm going to give you a chance. I'm going to give you a chance just to check in with each other. So how many are we today? 2, 8. So we'll probably have. We'll do 2 rooms of 4, and I'll drop into both rooms. But if you can think about where you are in terms of actions and progress to date, we've talked about accountability discussions, but what are the ongoing challenges that you continue to manage in your role, and where might you need some support? Situation. Normally, there's situations with team or even peers in the organisation sometimes. And you'll all have priorities that you're addressing. And I'd love to hear, so the whole idea of our last full day together was about coaching. How do we take a more coaching-led style to conversations with our teams? Much more question-led, much more about getting our teams to start to think for themselves, start to create answers to their own questions and problems, so that we start to reflect things back to them, so they become more autonomous and pick up that independence for themselves. So this is a good reminder to you about that opportunity that you have in those coaching conversations, but a good chance to discuss it with each other. How are you getting on with that, and what else might you need to consider as we go through today's workshop and we think about progress from this one to the next. So let me open up a couple of rooms, and I'm going to assign you automatically, so you'll be in probably a different group than normal, but that's okay. Okay, good. And I'll join you in each of the rooms just for, if we have 10 minutes just to kind of do a quick round robin, share what's going on. I'll join you, but I'm probably not going to say anything. So I'm just there for fun. More than anything. Okay, so I'll do 5 minutes in one room, 5 minutes in the other, but 10 minutes together, just an opportunity to check in. If you need to take a quick screenshot of that, but it's about action so far, progress, situations with your team, and maybe ongoing challenges that you still face in your role in your business. Okay, over to you. I'll see you shortly. Here from your rooms. So room 1 was John, Nicola, Oliver, Tim. What came up in your room for your discussions?
Well, I think Nicola has found some resolutions to a big challenge from last time. So probably makes sense for Nicola to share the news on. Because
I'm really pleased to hear that, Nicola. Come on, let's have the update.
We did get a resolution. We basically they've given us a green light to start recruiting for more areas in the UK.
Excellent.
So that's great. They have listened, and I think that's going to take a massive weight off my shoulders anyway. So yeah, I'm really pleased about that. So sorry I was in such a depressed mood. I was going through some terrible times last time we spoke. But yeah, I'm really pleased to say that it's moving in the right direction.
Excellent.
The group, we all kind of discussed from there on sort of the structure of our businesses and how the landscape is changing, and also putting bids in for more people, because now COVID's sort of left us, as it were. We're seeing more and more people face to face. We're going to more road more dental shows. We're seeing people face to face more than ever now, and we need people on the ground to do that. So I think it was nice to hear that it wasn't just me that was having those issues. I think that's in every walk of life at the moment. I don't know if you'd all agree with that, but that's what we were kind of discussing in the room.
Yeah, there's a real shift, isn't there? Real change, almost like going back, what, 3-4 years in time?
Yeah.
4 years, I suppose, isn't it?
4 years, 3 years.
Yeah, that's good. Well, and you don't need to apologise for last time, Nicola. I'm pleased that you felt you could share it with the group and that you got hopefully some support to navigate through it. The great thing about reflecting on situations like that is that you recognise, right, when things are going really, really well, right, it's not going to last, right? But when things are going really, really badly, it's also not going to last. So that kind of sense of, do you know what? Take each cycle, each moment, each period of time, each situation for what it is, because you'll get through it. It's not going to, it won't last forever, and then you move on to the next cycle. So it's a good reminder to yourself, isn't it, that you can get through it. And actually, sometimes all you need is a support group, or supportive people around you to help you to recognise. Yeah, do you know what? Take the next step. Just keep putting your one foot in front of the other. Take it day by day, and actually things do improve.
So thank you to you all, honestly. Thank you so much.
No, that's great to hear.
I had a little story. We went to a meeting in Manchester, the Northern Dentistry Show, and one of the new hires, I think, obviously, Justin, you met her last week.
Yeah, Shoves, yeah.
Oh, she really did shine and sold loads of product. I was so proud of her. So it just makes, working again, a happy place, really.
Yeah, it's good. And I met so Nicola at the weekend. I saw Shubs, and Ria. I met Lindsay, and two brilliant salespeople. I think you're both very lucky to have those on your team. They really did shine, actually, on the course. So yeah, great hires. I'm optimistic for you that you'll get some, really brilliant performance and results out of them. So that's great to see.
Oh, that's so good to hear.
Yeah, very good. So that's good that you've made the progress, Nicola. Anything else in your room from Tim, John, Oliver? Anything else that was a theme coming up that you were talking about?
No, I think I managed to share my challenge with the whole group and the French distributor. So that was the bit of information I was sharing. Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Tim.
Yeah, I think the most of it was just recruitment in general, and the state, and obviously inside and outside of dentistry. But it's just hard to get good people, and just in general over every kind of industry at the moment.
Yeah.
It was interesting that we all had similar or pretty much exactly the same challenges in terms of our sales teams all shrinking during and after COVID, and then now we're getting back to more of a norm where people expect face-to-face meetings and kind of now navigating the growing of teams a bit, or at least negotiating that might be a possibility. So we're all in a similar boat there.
Yeah, it's a good opportunity to start to build out your team, but as you say, there is an inherent shortage of high quality people in the marketplace, regardless of what market you're in at the moment. So recruitment, there's that saying, hire slow, fire fast. I think it's really true. Trying to kind of have some patience, make sure that you hire the right person, get them onboarded, make sure the culture's right, make sure the attitude is right for your teams, because team fit's so important, as well as the opportunity for that person to perform.
Definitely.
Yeah, it's good. Okay, thanks, John, Nicola, Oliver, Tim. And then room 2, we had Chris, Ria, Stance, and Abby. What came up in your room?
Just the situation that we've presented itself this morning, actually, just with a team member that I caught up with. That there's a little bit of friction with another team member to do with negativity and situation with one of the customers. So it just needs addressing, which we'll do.
Yeah. Is it straightforward, Chris? You between you and Stancy, it's okay?
Yeah, I mean the person in question, we kind of know the personality, and it has that undertone. And Stancy and I chatted about it this morning, and I'm a kind of a big thing to do with like culture within businesses, whether it's big or small. We've got a small team. Sometimes in a really big organization, that sort of stuff can get hidden a little bit. But when it's a small team, it really can cause issues, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And neither of us want that to happen. So it just need nipping in the bud. We can't have, there's a little bit of kind of, conniving kind of going on and trying to get an alliances going and all that sort of stuff. And it's, that can't happen in a small business. So we'll get on top of it. No problems.
Yeah.
So Ria did mention as well, was something that I really, really liked, and I'm going to take on board for when I start this conversation with this person. And it was to sort of start it off as a well-being check-in, rather than go in and go, do you know what? I know you're saying this. I know you've been doing that. It's got to stop. Rather than going all guns blazing. If go in with a well-being check-in approach, which I really love that idea, just to try and get this person to, I just want to understand. I mean, they are, like I said, they're a very, very negative person in general in life anyway. And I think they've got a lot of things that they need to work on personally. But if I can just, really understand the baseline as to why they're feeling like this. Is it real problems, or are they just creating problems because they've got problems elsewhere? So I really like that. So thanks for that, Ria.
That's all right.
Can I just say something on the course as well? We Stancy and I met with one of our dealers. I mentioned it is last week, and they were talking about they were a sales manager, and they were talking about the way they're going to structure the sales team, and they're going to work with them, and it was who I'm talking about, Stancy, yeah? And we walked away going, what, like, and I kind of tried to make some suggestions, because I just could see that this approach was not going to work, and was going to cause issues. And it's a dealer that we want to work more closely with, but I think that they're in for a bit of a nightmare, to be honest. And we made a couple of suggestions. Oh no, this is definitely a way to do it. And and it was real eye opener, because we came away going, that's going to be a effing nightmare. And and we were just thinking, and it's kind of, it's good to sort of reflect on that's people are still really blind to these different approaches that are clearly, well, in my eyes and our eyes, that is definitely not going to work and is going to create issues.
He 100% needs a Justin course, this guy. Like 100%. I might just send him an email, and just because I know I know him quite well. I've known him for a long time. You know, we have got sort of a nice relationship, not just a full-on business one. So I feel I could probably say to him without giving away why I think he needs to come on a course. You know, I've just finished this course. It was really good. Maybe you want to consider it because you're new in a position.
The problem is, if your experience so far is that you try to give him suggestions, like no, this is how we're doing it. He perhaps isn't as open to the feedback as perhaps he should be or could be.
Oh, I would agree. And it was steamrolling towards like micromanagement at the highest level. But not only that, but creating this big bottleneck. Just because he wants everything to be filtered through him, and there's a quite a big team. And I was just like, oh, this is going to be it. And I know somebody we know somebody that's just moved there, hasn't actually started at the moment, and they're going into this, and we're thinking, shit, this is going to be a bit of a nightmare.
Yeah.
So,
Wow.
So yeah, we'll try and get him on the course.
Well, let's see if you want to introduce me, please feel free to do so, Chris Stancy. Thank you. That's good with your difficult conversation with this person coming up. Well worth looking at. If you look at the toolkit, one of the tabs on the coach tab.
Yep.
Is handling difficult conversations, and I think we have worked through that as a structure as part of that coaching day, but probably worth having another look at, because it'll link a lot of it links back to contracting. So I'd say I really like the idea of a wellbeing check-in. It's probably you could potentially combine the wellbeing check-in with a contracting conversation. Kind of go back to what is it you stand for. I know Chris and Stancy does some great work on your team contract. Perhaps even pluck out a couple of your team contract, keywords, because I think there'll be something in there about positivity.
Yeah, that's a good point, actually. Yeah,
because
I'm
guiding light,
Yeah, and I'm on my way to the office now, and I will be checking exactly what this person's word was on that contract.
Yes,
and just bringing that back up.
Yeah. It's sometimes it's just about almost that recalibration with people. They forget what they've committed to, and habits slip in, or past behaviours start to creep back, and it's just about helping people to remember what it is you've all signed up to. That's what's important. And the impact on other people. Sometimes people don't realise the impact they have on other people. Really, really important that they just get that almost reminder, so that they're kind of recognise that every action they take has an impact that's beyond themselves, isn't it?
Yeah, and it was just from the way they're being, the person I spoke to this morning, they're sort of questioning, is this really what I want, the environment I want to be in? And
wow.
For them to even be thinking like that, that's kind of dangerous grounds, because not one step further and they're starting to look for another job, and I definitely don't want that. So that's why we want to try and jump on it straight away. So.
Yeah, and the I know you'll be thinking this, but one of the things that I always find useful is the question to myself in advance of situations like that: what is the outcome I want from this conversation?
Yeah.
You see what I mean, don't you?
Yeah.
You want to focus on, okay, I want that person to, have this insight. I want them to think, shit, what have I been doing? I need to correct my behaviour. Right, I need to probably apologise. I need to, start being more positive. I need to, engage and communicate more openly, be more supportive of the culture, whatever it is, but recognise that that's the outcome you want. And sometimes help you to work back through, okay, how am I going to handle and structure this conversation? Because you don't want that person coming out the end of that conversation feeling really even more aggrieved or negative. You want them to come to their own realization that they've got to make a change, and that change needs to be positive. And if that's the outcome, sometimes it just changes the way that you handle the conversation.
Yeah, and it's important anyway, but especially now we've just gone through this whole new rebranding, and all these messages that we're putting out into the market and stuff. Like, everyone's got to be on board.
Yeah.
You know, 100%, everyone's got to be on board and be delivering those messages, and there just can't be that negativity. So
yeah, and I could see it over your left shoulder, Chris. That I like that, caring people, improving lives. It's a really nice message, that, isn't it?
Yeah,
really nice message.
Yeah.
So potentially that's a good, you know, opportunity just to refresh that that message with that person. Yeah, good. Anything else in room 2 with your group? Anything else come up?
Just a small update from me in terms of obviously I have a new person starting who you met, Justin. So
yeah.
I think her really positive outlook has really changed the dynamics in a really good way in the team. She's brilliant. She has, there's so much potential there, and I think she's already asking the right questions, and she's already taking on things that I didn't expect her to take on so quickly. And I think that pushed another team member that I have to think, oh, hang on a minute, I probably need to get myself in gear. So she's kind of done a 360 after a couple of like well-being chats to kind of check in, and she had shared that she was struggling with the fact that she hadn't hit her target, and she was really like low on it, and everyone else was doing quite well, and it was a little disheartening for her. So she got stuck in her mind, to be quite honest. So we just had a really open conversation about, you know, the steps that she would need to make in order to try her best for next time. I mean, as long as she's shown the steps of what she's done, then we can always say, right, you did that, it didn't happen, you need to move on and change that mindset to be more positive, to focus on Q2 that's coming around the corner. We've got some really big titles, some great opportunity, and she's going to work on a really massive project, which will hopefully bring in quite a lot of money. It will certainly bring in quite a lot of money. So she's done a 360 as well, and I honestly think it's because we've got quite a lot of changes happening in the business, and I think she's probably thinking, oh, hang on, I actually do want to be here, so I do need to change my outlook. And obviously with someone new coming in who literally came from cinema like herself and is literally blowing pretty much everyone out of the water already, I think that's given her a little bit of fire up her rear end. So
Yeah.
it for the moment, things are actually like flowing nicely. My other person who I mentioned when we were all together, you know, the one when I give him a number, he gets really negative about the number that he's got, but then he goes off and like smashes it out the park. I've given him some responsibility to act as like a supervisor, like a senior when I'm not there, so he can hold some meetings, just some like basic key meetings. He can have some check-ins with Lindsay, just to make sure that she's kind of on the right path if I'm stuck in meetings pretty much all day. And he's actually really grasped it really well. So that's been good, because he's always been like, nope, don't care about the wider business, just want to make money and go home. And now he's got a little bit of a different outlook based on her. So I really think she's like my lucky charm at the moment. So long may it continue.
Very good, very good. Isn't it amazing how one good hire, someone with a great attitude who can come in and just almost like lift everybody's perception and performance? It's interesting, that, isn't it?
Completely. So yeah, and I do think it helps. Sorry, Nicola, go ahead.
Oh yeah, I'm just saying the dynamics changed at our Northern Dentistry show. One high, massive difference. Sorry, Tim.
Yeah,
no, completely. Yeah, so we're in a good place at the moment. With business as well, we've got a good slate coming up, so we're really hopeful. So we understood that Q1 wasn't going to be a great quarter for some people in the team, so we did expect that, but we just didn't expect the one person to be quite down about it. But she flipped it around. I have to say, in the last couple of weeks I've noticed quite a difference, which I'm very impressed by. And I've actually held myself accountable a little bit as well, because sometimes, because I've been busy from calls and stuff, I haven't held myself accountable for our one-to-ones and making sure I'm prepared with things that I want to discuss and talk about. So I'm able to hold her accountable as well as myself. So I realized a couple of weeks on the trot I wasn't doing that. So now when we're in the one-to-ones, I've got everything that I want to get down. And if it needs to be on again the next week and the next week until she really gives me the answer that I need or does what I need her to do or the update, then things aren't slipping my mind, and she is in that mindset of, oh gosh, Ria's going to ask me that question, so actually let me get what I need already ready. So I think I had to hold myself accountable just a little bit as well.
Yeah, good. And you know, right at the start of our call, that reminder that you're seeing it through your new team members, right? The energy and the positivity they bring is infecting people.
Yeah,
Right?
definitely.
And as leaders, our job is to infect people with the right positivity and energy. And
Yeah,
the thing is, when you've got difficult team members, you've got difficult situations, you're feeling it yourself. You can without realizing it start to seep out a less than positive attitude among your team. That's why managing ourselves is so important. Going back to those first principles of, right, actually, let me reset my energy, my positivity, bring that to the conversation, make sure that in every one-to-one, in every team meeting, in every conversation, I'm just taking the responsibility to positively charge people. You know, I mean, I'm charging them rather than draining them.
yeah,
And it's so important that we do that. And it's interesting because when you do that, you would think that it might deplete your energy, but actually it re-energizes you as well.
yeah, it does.
So energizing other people energizes you as well. We're more like, rather than like a battery, we're more like a power station. The more we generate, the more we can generate. You know, that's the thing to think about in your mind as you're having these conversations with your teams, and especially your new starters, to keep their fire burning really, really bright.
Yeah,
So all of a sudden you're not the only one doing it. You've got someone else on board that's helping and supporting you to light the fire and everyone else. And Chris and Stancy, that opportunity for you to do that now in this situation, so that you kind of got to turn that around, so that these opportunities for people to start to course correct, become positive ambassadors. And maybe that's the, you know, for your person that's negative, maybe that's the challenge to them. You know, what we're trying to achieve is this continual transition of positive energy amongst our teams. And actually, if you've got one person that's disrupting that, the challenge to them to say, well, actually, how could you start to become someone that positively ignites conversations in the organization, starts to spread a really positive message, and leaves everyone feeling uplifted after a conversation with you, not depleted? How do they get to that situation? You know, so it's a complete reversal of where you are today. And recognize it probably won't happen in one conversation, but it could be turned around in one conversation with that person coming back to you with some suggestions afterwards.
I think it needs to be a consistent message, doesn't it? So we need to be delivering that message all the time. This situation we dealt with sort of, you know, on the side, but we've also got our sales meeting tomorrow. So I've just made some notes to kind of put some stuff in there about that, and about the kind of culture that we want to bring, and just so everyone's sort of seeing that, and that is the message, you know. So
yeah, it's good timing then, Chris, with you getting the team together. Yeah, very good. Good. Okay, we're at 8 minutes to 11. Does anybody fancy a quick 5-minute leg stretch, comfort break? Grab another drink. Yeah, Ria, you may have to go, I think, at this stage. Is that right?
Yeah, I probably will shoot everyone. Sorry, I've got dentist. So I will see you all next month, and good luck. And Oliver will catch up.
Thanks, Ria.
Catch up soon.
Thanks, Ria. Take care. Good luck. See you soon. Bye. So just, I find it as a useful reminder for me as much as anything. So we start with mindset. And interestingly, you know, some of the challenges that have come up today that you're experiencing are around mindset of your teams. And very often, you remember right back when we started back in July, we talked about those 3 foundations of high performance, talked about psychology at the base layer, talked about the right skill development then, once you've got the psychology right, and then we talked about systemizing and getting the structure and the process right. Very often we'll have to make sure that we're dealing with the right part of the problem when it comes to performance. And mindset and psychology very often will, for a lot of our teams, be part of the problem. And being able to take an approach that helps them to recognize that, and then being able to coach them through how they can make those improvements, can be really powerful. And you'll have learned that in the past yourselves already, but it's worth just reflecting on, you know, when you've got people who are underperforming, just that sense of, is this a skill deficiency? Is it an attitude, mindset, psychology problem? Is it a, you know, are they not doing the right things in the right order? Is it a system problem? And I've found over the years that can be really powerful. So just making sure that you're addressing the right thing. Right, so mindset first for ourselves and for our teams. Then we talked about building the plan having a structure that helps us get clear on priorities, strategically and tactically, the activities that align with the strategy, and making sure our teams are clear and aligned with the objectives that we're setting for ourselves and for them. Then we talked about the key principles and responsibilities of leadership. And remember, number one was psychological safety. So the fact that, Chris, you've had one of your team come to you, and they're obviously feeling in a place that is, you created that psychological safety. The fact that they feel they can come to you and have that conversation, it's a good thing. When you know about things, when you've got awareness, you can change them. It's when you don't have that awareness, when people don't feel that sense of safety to be able to bring up difficult conversations, that's when you can struggle. But you've got that in place, so that's good. So 5 key principles of leadership. And if you want to go back to any of that content, the online program has all of those as short video modules. If there's anything in there you think, I could recap on that, it might be useful. Once we've got the 5 principles of leadership in place, we also talked about emotional intelligence and those 4 kind of cornerstones. So self-awareness for us, and then self-management in difficult situations. And then we talked about like relational or social awareness, understanding what's going on with our teams, being able to tune into that, and then being able to manage those relationships effectively, so that we manage ourselves and our teams and the relationships effectively, particularly through difficult conversations, difficult situations. Then we introduced our coach model. We talked about relationships, and establish relationships, leveraging relationships with our teams and customers and peers and our managers, making sure that we're managing those relationships effectively, then establishing rapport and reconnecting with people on a regular basis, so that we're continually building trust and elevating the kind of relationship status between us and them. We talked about contracting, and if you remember contracting, we talked about it in that kind of context of the start of a relationship, but we may have to revisit that contract over and over with people, just so that we're clear and they stay clear on what's expected. And it's interesting because having led lots of business teams, sometimes you'll find that you get this, in projects you get what they call scope creep, where you start off trying to do one thing and people just start to drift and do loads of other things that are not related to the project. And it's the same in business, right? We have teams that we say, right, this is how we're going to work together. Everyone agrees. And then they set off in one direction, just start creeping off to one side or another, where they're doing things that you kind of go, why? I wonder why they think that is in line with what we'd agreed earlier. So you just have to recontract in those situations with people, recontract and set objectives. So make sure that our plans, your 133, 135 plans are reviewed regularly, that your teams understand them, and you might have to revisit them at least monthly, just so that everybody kind of goes, okay, yeah, I need to get myself back on track. It can be really powerful. So contracting and objectives, our 133 plans or 135 plans, and then the action and observation. So regularly spending time with your teams, watching them in action. So powerful. Because what's interesting is that people will have this perception gap. It's like this perception filter that they think they're doing one thing and they're actually doing another. And when they update you and say, yeah, no, great meeting with that person, or I've been following this up, or I've been doing this, I've been doing that. And then when you actually spend time with them in the field or in their role observing, you'll notice that gap between what they think they're doing and what they're actually doing. But you only get the awareness, and you only can create awareness for them if you're spending that time watching them in action, so that you're observing. And of course, that provides you with the opportunity to coach. Right, so where the gap exists between action and observation is where you'll find the space to coach your teams. And then when we're coaching, obviously we're questioning, we're listening, we're tuning in to what is happening for our teams, and really trying to use the right coaching models. And my advice on this is, if ever you're kind of in any doubt, just use the GROW model, right? If ever you're in any doubt, just go for the GROW model. So the goal first, the reality second, options and what is possible, what's if they're being creative, if they're thinking, in a really different way. What are the options that are open to them, and then what will they do at the end? So it's a really simple structure that helps you navigate those more difficult conversations. And then this is where we'll go in our final full day session together. We'll start to look at development planning. How do we kind of help our teams set a bigger vision for themselves, and how do we do that for ourselves as well as leaders? And then becoming kind of focused on career development, and then the plan that helps us to get to that career development for ourselves and for our team. So we'll talk about how we do that, and we'll mix between development planning and coaching, review cycles, even potentially, that becomes a component of your 1-3-3 plan. Where's the development sit within that plan for your teams? And then we'll look at succession planning and some useful tools for succession planning as well. So that's our roadmap. We talked about the plan framework. We talked about the coach model. So just a reminder, I'll send you these slides afterwards. One area that comes up very often for us is about how we delegate. So last time we covered delegation. We won't go over that again, but just a reminder to you that there'll be things probably that you're doing today that you could potentially be delegating once you've got the right people on the bus and they're all operating the way that you want them to. And we covered last time this tool that just helped us to structure if we were delegating something significant. So if you were delegating a customer, responsibility for managing a customer, or responsibility for a significant business project, maybe it was handing over responsibility for leading CRM or marketing communications or something. If you were going to do that, then actually taking the time just to map out what is it that you're trying to delegate, what's your motivation for doing that, what difference will it make, what does it look like as a completed project, what are the key success criteria, what are the things that would determine success once this has been picked up by somebody else, and then selling yourself on the best result and the worst result. So what's possible if we take action, what's at risk if we don't. And it really does give you a framework that just starts to help you think in terms of being able to delegate a task or a key responsibility to someone else, a structure for being able to hand that over. And it gives you, this is number 2, says selling yourself on the project, sell yourself on doing it by creating best and worst result. So I'll remind you of that. We won't pick that up today, but I'll just remind you of that tool and that task, delegation task structure. And then the other thing that comes up that I thought might be useful to talk about today, particularly when we're in challenging situations and when we've perhaps got a few kind of shortfalls in the organization, or you're managing lots of different tasks and priorities, is just thinking about your own resilience and your team's resilience and productivity. And I see the two of those as kind of going quite closely hand in hand. And the first thing to think about is this principle of kind of back to mindset, really, and recognizing, I don't know if you've heard this phrase, are you a thermostat or thermometer? But the thermostat sets the temperature, sets the tone, sets the climate, environment, positivity, energy, you name it. Whereas a thermometer takes the temperature. And sometimes reminding ourselves that we are in any given situation, whether it's with our teams, with customers, with our peers, with our managers, that we are the thermostat, not the thermometer. And recognizing that can be really useful for yourself, because you start to then realize that responsibility to set the tone. And no matter what comes up, no matter what you're kind of faced with, you go, actually, that we've always got a way to be positive, to see opportunity, to work through this, to positively energize people, to leave people feeling better than when we encountered them. And that as a principle can be really powerful. So thermostat or thermometer, recognize the difference. Sometimes you're in difficult situations and you can feel yourself being drained by somebody else, or being tipped off course, or feeling, just like that self-doubt can start to creep in without you realizing it. I find this as a principle, coming back to it, am I a thermostat or thermometer, is really useful for me, just to press that reset button for myself at times.
That slide's going in there tomorrow.
There you go. You will have it, Chris. You can put it in there. Yeah, perfect. Good timing, right? Good timing.
Perfect timing.
Yeah, it's a thermostat or thermometer. And then there's this, I don't think we've covered this, but there's this principle from NLP that can be really useful to recognize. We've got this, there's this loop that goes on in our minds and our bodies. They call it the think, feel, act loop, right? But because the mind and the body are connected through the brain through the nervous system, right? So the nervous system creates the connection between the brain and the body. What happens is anything we think or anything our teams think will create a feeling, and that feeling then determines how they act, right? So if the thought is, actually there's loads of opportunity, I'm feeling really good about myself, then that creates a positive energy. They feel good and they'll take a lot of action. If the starting thought is, God, I'm not sure I want to be here, it's really tough at the moment, I'm feeling drained, that creates that lower energy level, and you'll find that activity and performance is lower. So that's not just our teams, that's for us as well, right? So that what we think, the starting point, the mindset, creates the feeling in the body that enables or disables action. And it is a constant loop. So you'll see from the slide, like what you think affects how you feel, which affects how you act, which affects how you think. And that's why very often in your example, Chris and Stancy, you talked about that one of your team who's kind of very often can find themselves in this negativity loop.
Yeah, 100%.
Breaking the cycle is really important, because otherwise it is a constant loop, and that person then starts to proliferate that into all conversations with other people. And sometimes it's about a wake-up call. So that person, the starting point is, right, what are you thinking about, and how do you start to think about what you want instead of what you don't? And from that point, you've then got this opportunity just to make that change. But it really is, it proliferates way beyond just what that person thinks. It's that it affects their whole experience of work, life, relationships, everything. So going back to, some of the mindset principles we talked about in our early program together is worth just revisiting, because for us, being able to manage our own mindset, being able to support and help our teams to become aware of their opportunity to do the same can be really beneficial. But sometimes people don't feel like they've got a choice, and actually just that recognition, the wake-up call, you have got a choice. Where you start with, how you think about the world and yourself in it is the point at which change happens. You have to recognize that it's yours to change first. But lots of science on that as well. So worth a check back in, especially if you end up. Sometimes it's. I work on this regularly, but I'll have periods of time where you go through difficult periods or really busy periods, or you've got a load of stuff on, or you had a number of difficult conversations or situations, and before you know it, you can find yourself almost thinking things that you kind of go, where did that come from, right? But reminding yourself of this, actually there's a choice here around where that thought starts, how it makes you feel, and what it makes you capable of doing. Can be really powerful as a reset. I love anyone. I don't know if anybody has ever listened to any Jim Rohn. He's dead now. I think he died mid-90s, but he's a really interesting guy. He was one of the very early kind of personal success coaches and gurus. And he's got loads of these mantras, and this is one that I love. Don't wish it was easier, wish you were better. Don't wish for less problems, wish for more skills. Don't wish for less challenge, wish for more wisdom. It's a really nice way. I tend to repeat that to myself sometimes in difficult situations. I'm like, okay, God, I wish this was easier. No, I don't. I wish I was better. And it focuses you on the right thing, because you can control how you deal with things, but you can't always control the things that come at you. So recognizing it's about us, and that growth and development is really valuable. Same with our teams, right? Same with our teams. But resilience is interesting. So I've got there's this list that I pulled together around. I did it kind of for me and for a program I ran on resilience and productivity. There's top 10 list of things that help us build resilience. Some of them are obvious, some of them are less obvious. So the first one is about taking care of yourself first. So make sure that you are prioritizing time for you, psychological health, mental health, physical health, spiritual health. And that's not a religious spiritual, but it is about purpose and connecting with something that you find meaningful for you, things that you love to do, creating the space for you to do that regularly so that it nourishes you kind of beyond just your mind and your body. Whatever that means for you, I find that useful. The way I do it is through, there's 2 or 3 things I do. So one is I do a yoga meditation, which I find really useful, that gives me a bit of calm, and I find just makes me feel better about myself, not just mind and body, but kind of almost on a spiritual level. Many of you know I do a bit of volunteering. I find that kind of is quite nourishing. That local volunteering, I run this men's mental health group, that really helps me to kind of reconnect with something bigger for myself. And then when the weather's good, I get out on the river and do a bit of paddleboarding. I find that that's really good for just that reconnecting with nature and doing something that you enjoy, that just, an hour can whiz by like that. That's that kind of re-energizes and recharges you. So whatever, take care of yourself first. It can be, when you're busy, when there's a lot going on, it can be the first thing that slips. You sacrifice yourself for all the other things that you need to do. So just a reminder to yourself to do that. Number 2 links to your own personal sense of, we remember right at the start, we talked about what we love about our work and why it's vital that we succeed. So that kind of reason why you do what you do and reconnecting with that on a regular basis. So it's a reminder to do that so that it re-energizes you. 3 is about focusing on opportunities. Just keep going back to the opportunities that exist, because that gets you excited. It makes you feel more connected with progress, with growth, with where you're heading. We talk about the 1-3-3 and the 1-3-5 for our teams. I don't know if any of you have set one up for yourselves, but if you haven't, it's an opportunity to do it, because that helps you to set and move towards your goals. And they're professional goals and career goals, but actually there's an opportunity there for you to expand that to personal goals as well, right? The things that you want to achieve with your family, friends, within your life more generally. 5 is about accepting, we remember earlier I said, the good times, don't worry, they won't last. The really shit times, don't worry, they won't last, right? Sometimes we just have to accept change and take action anyway, just move forward anyway, it doesn't matter, right? Don't take it personally, nothing's permanent. 6 is a bit like this group, right? Nurturing your circle and your connections, the people that are important to you, just making sure that on a regular basis you have time for people that are important to you, because at the end of the day, we're all doing great work. We want to be successful in our roles, but actually the one thing that lasts are friends and family, and making sure that we have that regular connection and nurturing with those important connections and friendships and relationships. 7, it's like a to-do list, isn't it, right? 7 is being kind to yourself and others. We talked about the inner voice and how sometimes that can be a bit of a critic. So reminding ourselves that actually we should, take it easy on ourselves sometimes, have a bit of humor, give ourselves a bit of, cut ourselves a bit of slack, so that we recognize that very often there's a principle in NLP that says everybody's doing the best they can with the resources they have right now, which is a really useful reminder, including us, right? Everybody's doing the best they can with the resources they have right now. And sometimes we have to help people, get more resources or recognize there's another way. But most of the time it's that can help us to take it easy on ourselves and others. 8 is about, the growth mindset, embrace being the learner. And right at the start of this session, we talked about beginner's mind. So going into situations with beginner's mind, help me learn, help me understand. Meeting people where they are is really useful. And then 9 is about controlling your emotional response. I don't know if we talked about this, but there's basically, when something happens, there's 3 steps. Like an event happens, a challenging situation comes up, or we have a problem with a customer or a problem with a team member. and we tend to then react to whatever's happening, and then there is an outcome. So something happens as a result of that reaction. And the emotional response model is about switching those second and third steps. So we think, right, an event's happened, we need to address it. Before we go to the response, we think, right, what outcome do I want in this situation? And then we respond from the outcome, or with the outcome in mind. So controlling that emotional response and recognizing that gap so that we can act is really useful. And then the final one is about we do development planning for our teams. We talk about growth and development for them. The reason you're on this program is because you're prioritizing your growth and development, but continually working, investing time on a regular basis so that you work on you and your growth and development is really valuable. So after today's call, just starting to think, right, based on what you've learned in this session, what steps can you take to prioritize your growth and development? Because that's where the real value is for you and your teams, right? Because the better you get, the more capable you are to lead a high-performing organization. Okay, I'm just going to pause there, give you a chance to reflect and give me some feedback. What do you think, based on, say, a few of you were taking some notes and processing some of those principles? What were you thinking?
Well, over the past few weeks, I really haven't prioritised myself at all because of what's been going on. Just sitting back and reflecting just today makes you realise how that might be affecting other people, like Shubs, our new starter. I'm hoping I don't come across like that when I'm with people like at the Northern Dentistry Show. But yeah, definitely to make more time for myself and reflect on things that have been going on around me. How will you start that, Nicola? What's the first step? Well, I think this past few weeks has been a really good example of sitting back and thinking, how could I have emotionally been different with the situation that was presented to me, rather than feeling overwhelmed, just sitting down and working through what the roadmap's going to look like. And I think, coaching my team rather than just giving bullet points and things of what's expected, I think it's really making me think and reflect on what to do next in a more structured manner.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, it's good. That's good. Thanks, Nicola. And I know you and John are going to pick up an accountability conversation after today. If you can you add this prioritizing you to your list? Okay.
Yeah. Noted.
Yeah, good. While you're on, how about you, John? What were you thinking?
Yeah, so from what you were just discussing there, there's a few elements I picked out, but a big one for me is focus on being the learner. So I like to kind of sometimes get my head down and get on with it. So I'm quite new to the role that I'm in. So my weakness is asking questions. I like to try and figure things out myself, but I've got a lot of resources I can draw on at the company that I work for. So I need to be more open to being a learner, asking questions and taking on people's experience and knowledge rather than just trying to muddle through myself. So obviously I take a lot from our conversations and these meetings that we have, but as well as that, I need to kind of lean on people a bit more within the organization I work for and take on more of their experience and stuff. So for me, that's the one I picked out of the bullet points there.
Yeah, thanks, John. Especially as you become more experienced in your management career, because you'll get more and more responsibility, and if you don't learn to do that, you could find yourself not being able to keep up with everything that needs to be done. So yeah,
exactly.
Great time to learn that lesson.
Yeah, definitely.
That's good. Thanks, John.
No worries.
Chris, how about you?
Yeah, I think the taking time for yourself is something that I think everyone needs to always remind themselves. It's very easy to kind of slip out of that, and then the next thing you know, you're not looking after yourself, and you're in deep with what you're doing on a day-to-day basis. And I try to sort of check in with that quite a bit. I try to have different routines every day, which I try to stick to, which affords me, that luxury of trying to look after myself, kind of, sort of mind and stuff. And then just stuff that wasn't on that initial list that we talked about before was just going through the contract with the team and having a bit of a reset, and just trying to kind of maintain the message, what we're trying to give to everyone, how the culture should be within the business. So that's notes I was just taking.
Yeah, that kind of revisit the contract and team contract and individual contracts.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
That's good. Thanks, Chris. Oliver, how about you?
Yes, I think scaffolding was just kind of it all kind of starts from you. So you can't obviously inspire your team and get everyone else on board if you're not feeling kind of your best and like on board with everything yourself. So I think it goes back to, like you said at the beginning, you can't light someone on fire if you're not lit yourself. So it's about getting your own mindset in which way you manage to do that correct before you can really start to dig into other people and getting their mindset correct.
Yeah, thanks, Oliver. It's very difficult to influence other people if you're not in a really strong kind of positive place yourself. You want to be able to take that, manage yourself first, then take that positivity or clarity to your teams.
Yes.
Thanks, Oliver. It's great. Tim.
Because I'm involved in more, I guess, public speaking and presenting and things like that this year, just having that question, what is the outcome I want from this conversation or outcome from meeting, presentation, whatever it may be, just have that at the forefront of my mind. So it steers what I'm doing towards an outcome rather than just sharing information for the sake of sharing it. It's what do I want to have achieved by sharing that information, I think.
Yeah. Thanks, Tim. So just remembering to focus on the outcome. Yeah. Good. Thanks, Tim. Abby, are you able to join us?
I'm here, yes.
Great. Abby, final reflections from you, Abby.
The radiator analogy or the thermometer, we use radiator here, but in terms of heating the room or having good energy and then versus not, and being more of a draining, and it's something that I talk about quite a lot here because my boss, our GM, introduced me to it, and I'm very conscious of it, that sometimes I feel like, especially with my team, they're calling me, I've just had this great meeting, and I find it really hard to match their energy sometimes and be like, oh great, and really engage in it, because I'm like, okay, that's good, but where are the results? We are a new team that are having results in terms of great meetings and positive interactions, but we're not quite there with the results yet. And so it's something that I'm already very conscious of when I'm talking them to try and be really positive and engaging and keep the energy up, but it's also something that I struggle with, probably just because I can be quite grumpy sometimes. So it's something that I'm very conscious of all the time, but it's nice to see it. I like the way that you illustrated it there. So I'll definitely keep that in mind moving forward as well when I'm speaking to the team.
Thanks, Abby. Remind us of yourself, manage your energy. Your energy is as important as theirs. And also that, what you just explained, Abby, is that, remember we talked a while back about leading and lagging metrics. The results and the sales and the creation of the new opportunity is kind of almost a lagging metric.
The
leading metric is engaging customers, having great meetings, identifying the right stakeholders, moving them through the process. So actually, even if that helps you manage yourself, we've got a great leading metric here. We've managed to achieve something positive that will lead to a lagging metric in future.
Definitely.
Very good. Thanks, Abby. Okay, we are at 11:30, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks so much for joining me this morning. Great conversation as always. And I look forward to seeing you all in a month at Oxford, Viva premises with Matt and us all. So have a great month between now and then. And I look forward to seeing you in April.
Yeah, me too.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Take care.
Thanks, all. See you later.
Thanks.
Bye.
See you later. Bye.
Bye.